They laughed at my 62nd birthday. My wife stood there smiling while the room marked me.
She placed the envelope on the table like it was nothing more than a receipt. No shaking hands, no hesitation. Just a small, satisfied smile, as if she'd finally said something she'd been rehearsing for years. "I need to find myself," she announced. "This marriage doesn't fit me anymore." 27 years collapsed into a single sentence. I looked at the papers without touching them. Divorce. Already drafted, already signed. She had clearly planned this carefully, probably imagining tears, arguments, maybe even begging. I gave her none of it. I picked up the pen and signed my name without a word. That surprised her. "You're okay with this?" she asked, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "I'm not stopping you," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You've already left." She packed lightly the next morning, 2 suitcases. Her laptop. A few carefully chosen outfits that matched the version of herself she intended to become. She didn't take much else, assuming, I think, that she'd return later once she figured things out. She kissed my cheek like we were old colleagues and drove away. The house felt different the moment she left, not emptier, lighter. I spent the next few days doing things I hadn't done in years. I opened windows, I cleared shelves. I methodically boxed up everything that reminded me of a life built around keeping someone else satisfied. Her books, her decor, her carefully curated mess all went into storage. Not angrily, but methodically, piece by piece. Then I changed the locks. Some people would call that cruel. I called it honest. She had chosen to leave. That meant the life she walked away from no longer waited for her convenience. While she was out there finding herself, I finally found clarity. I moved into the guest house behind the main property, a small, quiet place my father had built years ago. It was functional. It was mine. I focused intensely on work. On the business I'd kept running while being constantly told it wasn't impressive enough. Clients noticed the difference immediately. Decisions became easier when I wasn't constantly negotiating my worth at home. A week later, her half-sister Sarah reached out. We'd never been close before. She'd always existed on the edge of family gatherings, polite but overlooked. She asked how I was doing. I told her the simple truth, better than expected. She then offered to help clean the main house. I said yes. What started as help turned into presence. Sarah worked without drama, laughed without cruelty, and spoke honestly without needing attention. The house changed under her hands. And so did I. Rooms became livable again, spaces breathed. My wife texted occasionally. Short messages. Neutral questions. She assumed everything was on pause, waiting for her triumphant return. I didn't correct her. Then she came back. She pulled into the driveway unannounced one afternoon, stepping out of her car like she still owned the place. She froze when she saw her sister Sarah standing beside me. Sarah had paint on her jeans and, perhaps most damningly, the house keys in her hand. "What is this?" my soon-to-be ex-wife demanded. "This," I said evenly, meeting her gaze, "is what happens when you leave." She accused. She shouted. She claimed betrayal, the irony dripping from every single word. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just told her the simple truth. The house was never hers legally. The accounts had been cleanly separated. Her remaining things were boxed and ready for pickup. Her face went pale when she finally realized there was nothing left to negotiate. Later that week, the real truth surfaced. Bank transfers. Money moved quietly to a man she claimed was just a designer. Numbers don't lie. I handed everything over to my attorney and stepped back completely. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was protecting what little remained. Court was brief. Facts tend to shorten arguments. She lost claims she assumed were absolutely guaranteed. She left the courtroom looking smaller than when she entered, still convinced the world had deeply wronged her. I walked out lighter. Life settled into something real. Mornings were calm. Evenings were quiet. Laughter returned without being weaponized. Months passed. Healing didn't announce itself with fireworks. It simply showed up one day when I realized I wasn't bracing for anything anymore. She called once more. Said she'd made a mistake. Saad, she was ready to come home. "There is no home for you here," I said gently. "You didn't lose it? You let it go?" I hung up without anger. On a quiet evening, not long after, I stood in the yard watching the lights come on inside the house. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't dramatic, but it was honest. And for the first time in decades, that felt like enough. Some people leave to find themselves. Others stay behind and finally do. Thanks for watching this story. If you've ever had to quietly rebuild your life, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.